We're on. All right, we're on. We're actually on time today. Hey, everybody. My name is Fred Kennedy, and I am the host of 3 to 5 Things We Didn't Have Time to Talk About Today. It's my mom's favorite regular Facebook Live broadcast. And as always, I would like to thank our marvelous sponsor, Corey's Clothiers, at 569 Danforth Avenue. They provided me with this lovely Henley t-shirt. Look, is it inside out? No, it just looks that way. If you wake up every morning looking like this, but would want to look like this, just head on down to Corey's Clothiers, where none of their clothes are made with the flesh of puppies. Moving on. Disneyland. I have a love-hate relationship with Disneyland. Look at it, the Magic Kingdom. Oh, it's so great. Look at all these kids that don't deserve to be there. That's so great and good for them. Oh, look, it's Woody. That's nice. I really like Toy Story. That's a good one. Now, I have a thing where I don't want to really go to Disneyland. It was really tough for me to stick to my guns when the Star Wars land got announced. But then this happened. Look at this. What is this? It's an Avengers hatch, which leads people to believe that Disneyland is going to be building a massive Marvel theme park. Now, they opened the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, and the lineup to get onto it sprawled all the way through the entire park. First of all, if you're lined up to go on a ride like that, you're wasting your time. Don't waste a day in a line. Life is precious. Carpe diem. Just wait a year, and then the line won't be as bad. I don't get that idea. I don't line up for anything anymore. We don't live in communist Russia circa 1970. We shouldn't be lining up for bread, okay? There's some reason. See, this is a wonderful scene from The Hunger Games. I actually would suggest you read the books. I read the books because my good friend Mel Mariani and I got in a massive fight about it once as I made fun of her for liking The Hunger Games and was alluding that it was a book for teenage girls, and she got very mad. So to preserve the friendship, I read the books. And I always refer to Disneyland in The Hunger Games because remember when What's-Her-Face goes to the Capitol and they're all eating the food and then drinking the drink to barf and then eat more food? And it's their life of excess while the rest of the world is starving, leading to revolution? I feel like Disneyland is the plastic capital paradise where everybody goes and lives in excess and has a great time while there's people in the world that don't even have food. So it's very difficult for me to swallow my pride enough to go to Disneyland. But it looks like I'm probably going to go Star Wars Land. Guess who told her kids about that? Wife. Thanks a lot. Making me spend money to go. I'm furious. I'm so angry. It's a great picture. Look at this guy. By the way, great teeth. That guy's got some great... Imagine, like, if you had to do this pose and you were very embarrassed about your teeth.
He looks like a less attractive Tom Hardy.
He looks like a less attractive Tom Hardy. That's a great joke, Madison. Well done. Thank you. Thank you. She basically called a man ugly that she doesn't know. I shouldn't be encouraging this, but I'm very proud. Moving on. Poutine. Okay. I want you to know that I'm about to get very angry talking about this. All right? And I know I'm going to piss people off with what I'm about to say. Quebec, namely a professor from Quebec, is going on that Canada, the country, Canada, us, we have culturally appropriated poutine from Quebec. Canada, once again, you, me, we have culturally appropriated poutine from Quebec. I absolutely cannot stand this new world of cultural appropriation brought about by snowflakes and whiny millennials on social media. It drives me absolutely insane, and I'll tell you why. I would like to think that eventually we will get to a point where nobody draws lines about things and we are all just human beings. This is what we are. We aren't one demographic at all. We are all just one thing. We are humans. And when you start drawing lines about food, you can't cook poutine unless you're from Quebec because you're culturally appropriating it. How ridiculous does that sound? But there's like making a legitimate argument for it because that's the way we've created things now. Last week we were talking about those people in Portland that had to shut down their burrito restaurant because they culturally appropriated burritos from Mexico. Does that not sound ridiculous? I remember actually saying this one time. I was very drunk, and I was in a cab with a guy who told me that he had just moved to Canada from Sri Lanka, and he was the cab driver. And I was saying that I know how we can defeat racism and how we can defeat cultural bias and fear amongst people for being different. Everybody just needs to eat everybody else's food, and we will all get along, and we will all be happy. Because food is the one unifying thing of the world. Everybody in the world needs to eat. And I feel like, what's the term for when you want to like get on the good side with one of your enemies? You sit down and you break bread. The idea of eating food together is what brings people together. It's a social act. And it terrifies me that we're starting to see movement. I just pointed at his junk. It terrifies me. That doesn't terrify me. It terrifies me. Listen, I'm not afraid of a penis, okay? They're penises. We all came out of one at some point. All of you. It just terrifies me that we're getting to the point where people are just so eager to like point fingers and make other people look bad that we're drawing more and more and more lines and we're segmenting more and more and more people. It's upsetting. It used to be that when somebody you didn't like did something that was awful and you didn't like them for doing it, you rose above. You didn't do it. But now it's like the mantra is do exactly what the people you hate do, but when you do it, it's justified. It's awful. It's like we're looking for reasons to call each other out for being awful to each other. We're looking for it. No one's even willing to give anyone the benefit of the doubt anymore. I'm deliberately going to go eat some smoked poutine because, Quebec, you suck. And you're acting like a big friggin' baby. And it's not surprising to me that Quebec is the first province to say things of theirs are being culturally appropriated because we've coddled Quebec forever. Forever. What province gets its own special cup from Tim Hortons? Quebec. Because they're their own unique culture. Every place in this country has a unique culture. Go to BC, that's unique. Go to Saskatchewan, it's unique there. Even New Brunswick is unique. They make almost half of the world's lentils in New Brunswick. Where's your lentils, Quebec? Let me guess, it's all been lost in another maple syrup scandal. You jerks, holding us hostage with your Celine Dion and your maple syrup. I'm going to eat all of the poutine, and I don't even like poutine. And by the way, just so you know, Quebec, you culturally appropriated French fries from Belgium because it's the national food of Belgium, you jerks. Moving on, I'm sorry. Let's talk about something nice. This is the island of Kauai in Hawaii. Now, Kauai is absolutely amazing. They grow coffee there. It is the best coffee you will ever have, I swear to God. My wife went to Kauai one year, and she's like, what do you want me to bring back? And I was like, coffee. Bring me Kauai coffee. It is absolutely, unbelievably amazing. Why are we talking about Kauai? Because I want to talk about something positive after the whole Quebec appropriation thing. That is a solar plant. And the island of Kauai is now entirely run by solar power. Who did it? You guessed it. Elon Musk and Tesla built a massive solar power plant so that Kauai, the entire island, is running 100% off solar power. Why did he do that? Because he's trying to create even more efficient solar panels for when he goes to Mars. I absolutely love Elon Musk. Just an absolutely fantastic human being looking to the future all the time. Solar power in Hawaii. Now, whenever I talk about solar power, I kind of get a little bit conflicted in myself. I can admit it. I get a bit hypocritical when it comes to solar power. I love solar power. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But get this. I'm also a big, ardent supporter of nuclear power, which is weird. You would think that they're like completely contradictory. And it's not that I think that everything should be on nuclear power. I just feel that nuclear power is a lot better of an option than coal plants and diesel plants because the amount of waste you produce, although it's extremely toxic, hence like nuclear waste, doesn't get any worse than that, it creates a lot less waste than you would find in a coal plant or a diesel plant. And I also really feel that nuclear energy is the future. Warp Core, Star Trek, The Next Generation, that is a nuclear fission plant. And they actually did an episode on Star Trek The Next Generation about how they founded a way to take the nuclear waste and the toxic waste from the warp cores and use that to make new energy sources. And the thing is I feel like if we just immediately throw in the towel to nuclear energy, we're never going to find a solution to those problems of nuclear waste. More research, more time, more investment into it is how you solve all those problems. But at the same time, I think solar power is absolutely fantastic because it doesn't even create any nuclear waste. So I'm very torn, Elon. I'm very torn. Why don't you find a way to use solar energy to get rid of nuclear waste? And then everybody wins, and my internal battle can just go away. Oh, I had to keep this away from Quebec because Air Canada is Canada's very own Donald Trump. I absolutely hate Air Canada. I will never fly Air Canada, period. You know why? I'll tell you why. Air Canada, first of all, they tried to rip off my mom of a flight. My parents were flying back to Winnipeg after visiting me for a bit, and they got to the airport. And by the way, I've got typical parents in the sense that they're retired and they go to the airport 8 hours before their flight takes off. But they got to the airport, and when they got to the Air Canada booth, they were doing the training the new employees thing. They were in line to check into their flight for an hour and 45 minutes. An hour and 40. They were there to get through security in time, but because they were wasting time in the check-in, they didn't get to their flight. So by the way, they actually booked and pre-booked their seats and booked their seats and all that stuff, where you select and you pay extra for it. My parents always do that because my mom is very anal about where she sits on a plane. So they paid for their seats, and by the time they got to the front, they're like, actually, because we didn't have enough people on the plane, we downgraded the plane, so you're not going to get onto the flight. So my parents didn't get onto the flight, and then they didn't get home in time. They weren't able to go pick up their dog from the dog kennel that they put the dogs at, so that cost my parents an additional $300. Do you think Air Canada is going to pay for the kennel? Nope. But they will reimburse them the $40 for the booking of the seats that they did. And the thing is my mom's like, well, they said that they would do that. And here's the thing about Air Canada and their return policy. Air Canada is very big on making you wait. They're very big on making you wait and waiting you out. And then they get to this email. You see, Air Canada's refunds department, and I can tell you this for certain because I'm going to get into my beef with Air Canada after this. They make you go on a website, and it's one of those websites that has really vague and non-specific terms, so that when you're trying to figure out where your refund falls into, it almost always goes into the wrong category. Then you have to start again. So my mother is going to be having to fill in these forms, and then inevitably she's going to get an email back that says, refill this form in, refill that form in. You never get to talk to anybody on the phone and just explain the situation. Here's my beef. I booked a flight with Air Canada. This was back in February, okay? And I booked it for the Wednesday when I meant to book it for the Thursday. My bad. So I call up and I change my flight. And I'm like, listen, I know I'm probably going to have to pay like an additional little fee. And that's okay. It's my fault. I screwed up. So like, yeah, there'll be an additional fee of like $80. $80 for somebody to push some buttons on a keyboard. $80. But guess what happened when I got my bill? I paid an additional $470 for that changing of the flight. And do you think I could get anybody on the phone to explain why that was? Nope. But I got an email saying, fill this form in. And the thing is I tried to get a refund from Air Canada for a flight. But then they wrote me back saying, but you never took that flight, so it's not that specific category. You need to do this again. I haven't gotten a single email back from Air Canada that hasn't been a, fill out this form, fill out this form, fill out this form. That's what they do. They try and make you wade through the bureaucracy so that they can steal your money. They don't need customer service at all, because the magical thing about Air Canada is no matter what they do, the federal government will bail them out and take their side because they're a national airline and they have to exist. Air Canada is Canada's Donald Trump. Completely awful and unapologetic for it. Harumph! Moving on. Oh, NASA. See, we're going from negative to happy. NASA, by the way, are on a fast-track program to get to an asteroid field. You know why? They have found an asteroid worth 8,000 quadrillion dollars in terms of mineral wealth. They think that there is more mineral wealth on this single asteroid than there is on the entire planet, and they are fast-tracking probes to get out there and investigate. See, that's the amazing thing. If you want people to go to space, you have to make it financially viable for them to go. Or what you could do is somehow convince them that there's massive space titties out there, and then every single American dude will be rampantly beating on their representative's door to get them to space so they can see some of those sweet space titties. Because it seems to be that's the only things people care about nowadays. Money and boobs. Money and boobs. Money. We'll leave it on money because it's a less offensive image. By the way, I have got some tickets to see Everclear Sunday, June 11th at the Danforth Music Hall and a DeWalt prize pack. You just give me a call, 416-870-EDGE, and say Air Canada's garbage.